Hello everyone and welcome back to another weekly altered video. Hope you've been well. Hermes Conrad is back. We've got Waru and Mack. Few changes to the deck from last time, including a couple of cards that we didn't showcase before. Not too many changes from Skybound Odyssey, which is, as of this date, still the most recent set. But the deck's gone through a bit of a rejig. Three brand new uniques that we're using. We'll go through those in a moment, but we've added from Skybound a few copies of Doppelganger and Ordis Warden. We'll go through those now. Obviously, with the now a long time ago changes to Waru, where he no longer gets his token and you can't choose to sleep your bureaucrats as they come into play, we needed to adjust the deck to provide some more threats on the turns that they're played. Had a look through and decided that the rare slots were valuable enough to drop on this guy. So seasoned and from hand gains boosts equal to a character facing him. So out of respect for the way the format is laid out at the moment, players dropping big creatures, this can blank them for 3 mana and actually advance if their stats are asymmetrical. So really good way to flip an expedition late on that your opponent thinks that they're going to win. And yeah, so those ones are in there. Ordis Wardens as well. So this doesn't matter. Played from hand, he gains a sleep. Obviously with Waru, he's going to gain a sleep all the time anyway, but at noon, generally speaking, your opponent will have to put a card from your hand into reserve, which makes it open to sabotage. So if you play out the Warden on a turn where your opponent's gone first and you're going to be going first next turn, you can actually hit them with one of the Ordis Spies, another threat that puts power on the board the turn it comes out. But as a result of this synergy, we've actually flipped it. So we did at some point have 3 Legates, 2 Spies in the deck, but just so we get to see that a little bit more often, yeah, we're playing 3 Spies. Templars are good, we've gone down on those ones, but you know, turn 1 play, got a lot of 2 drops that we can combine with it, but the deck generally plays a little bit larger than some of the other ones that we do. And a few fun of one-ofs. So we're playing 2 Runes Testament here as a way to draw some additional cards. If we're going to have a really big next turn and we can sneak one into play to draw a couple of extra cards, where we're looking to do that. We've got the rare copies of Field Reinforcements as well. So the common version has fleeting, this version has cooldown, so you do get to play it on the 2 turns. If we play from behind, as we will expect at points throughout the game, this one should have value not only on the turn that you drop it, but the turn after as well. So that's the thesis behind those cards. And then Ebenezer Scrooge and the Sandman, just a one of each. We've split those ones as a way to respect sort of both ways that the game is being played at the moment. So a lot of things from reserve, so your Axiom lists, your Lyra lists, that really want to be playing out of reserve. A lot of Fen, a lot of Asari as well. If we do find that one, it can flip a game for us. Sandman as well. So same reason that we're playing the Doppelgangers, if anyone's playing singular big creatures out. that guy can provide a pretty large swing in stats on a turn where you're looking to close out the game. But we're down to one of those from where we used to be because we've still got the 3 hypothermias. Don't want to be sleeping too much, not fantastic. If your opponent's playing wide, but hypothermia, being able to hit your own creatures as well gives you a lot of options. We're up to the maximum 3 Ortus Overseers as well. With the Rune's Testament, we can sort of control if we're playing from behind a little bit, but with a lot of sleeps from the other bureaucrats that we're playing, we're likely to be able to get a few tokens out of this, and that is largely one of our finishes along with the charges. So 3, sometimes 4 bureaucrats being played out in a turn, or 2 turn cycles I suppose, means you can get a lot of stats out on the board, which is a big deal. Still respecting with our single target removal with the teamwork training and the license withdrawals. Down on that one because we've got more ways to draw cards, but absolutely necessary. A lot of tough hanging around at the moment with your Cowrie's Interventions, your Parliaments of Ashes, just creatures in general that have tough as well. So these will be slightly less valuable to us, but Ortus doesn't really have an option for mass untargeted removal. So our hypothermia is sort of playing around that a little bit. That's our card of choice for if our opponent drops a Cowrie's Intervention or Parliaments of Ashes on us, because it doesn't target, it targets the player. And then on to the big changes to the decks. So a lot of Ortus uniques that I've pulled recently, with a lot of focus on drawing cards. So the first of these, Kokoba Legion Commander, pay 3. If you control 4 more characters, draw a card. Not hard to hit, slightly less hard than it used to be. So, would have really loved to be playing this card around when Waru got his free token, but wasn't to be. But he also draws a card when he leaves the expedition. So if you draw him early, you actually get to still draw a card with the added text on top of drawing an extra one if you play in the late game. And this support ability actually not useless. There will be times where we want to drop another bureaucrat out, if we're trying to plan for a future turn rather than the one that we're playing now. No copies of Rallying Call to wake that bureaucrat up on the turn that it lands, but Charge sort of does that, secures us a little bit more. Quetzalcoatl, the second one, 4-drop, with the Quetzal text. So when your opponent draws or resupplies, make an Ortus recruit. Target expedition can be a big deal, so if your opponent is in the loop of drawing cards or doing anything on their turn, you can still get some stats out. Obviously get the extra guy next turn, plays well with Charge, plays well with Kokoba as well. And then when he leaves the expedition, so both when he's fleeting and when played from hand, you can put a card from hand in reserve and you can draw 2 cards. So we're really looking to keep our options open. This one plays surprisingly well with Ortus Attorney, All-Star in this deck, All-Star in Ortus really. But if you have both the Quetz and the Attorney sleeping on the same expedition, or Attorney will trigger, lets you draw the card. Quetz will let you put that card into reserve to draw 2 more. So big deal. And then the last one, just the Council. So seen this one already. Draw 2 cards. We do like having those in hand. What's the point of putting cards in your deck if you can't see all of them every game? And the stacks effect of blanking enters abilities from your opponents. Big deal. Not useless in this deck. And in general, one thing to note very difficult to play out of reserve. A supportability would have been a big deal here, but you know, can't get everything that you want. But the 4 cost from hand, actually notable with the 1 copy of Ebenezer Scrooge that we play. So target character with hand cost 4 or less gains a sleep. So you can, if you choose to do so, in very lucky situations where you've got the Scrooge in reserve and you've got the council out, you can actually put it to sleep and keep it around for an extra turn to draw more cards. Not sure if that's going to come up, but you know, something that I thought of when I was trying to fill these last few rare slots that we had, and Scrooge made the cut. Alright, a lot of cards to talk about there, really surprised about that. A lot of little intricate synergies. Okay, so I guess we'll just jump into it and hope that we can see some of those come to fruition. If not, at least we'll have some good games. Alrighty, let's get into it. And we're here with game 1, Waru and Mack. Daddy's back. We are playing first against our opponent here, who is on Novenka and Blotch. So, Lyra list, going to be putting extra power on the board as a bit of a sneaky. And what will our game look like here? 2 of our uniques to start off with is a little bit rough, especially the 4-drop ones. Definitely not looking to play those now, but I think we would be remiss to get rid of both of them. I think the council will be better here. The opportunity to draw more cards at dusk going to be good with the Overseer if we can get both in play on the same turn. And I believe this might not be the matchup for Doppelganger. First appearance of that card on the channel, big fan of that. And what's going to look better in a turn or two? So we could play the Legate here first, try and snip whatever they have in reserve at the start of the day. Might be able to catch your opponent off guard with a sneaky advance from the Templar as well, but that, if they're smart, they'll make us advance on the side the Legate's out on. The Overseer obviously plays well with our copy of the Council, but I think we'll play for control to start off with. If we can keep the amount of options our opponent has under control, I think we'll be better off. Cloth Cocoon, obviously a big deal in this deck, if they're playing any copies of those. Okay, Magical Training. So, Inkcaster out of our opponent. I think we'll force them to play it anyway. So they can block us off, take a 0 for 1 here. Oh, no, 1 for 1. We'll take that. Got the Hathor. That's alright. We had a 1 in 3 chance not to get blocked off there. But, you know, favourable for our opponent. What we'll do, just get rid of that Hathor this time. Alright, set up, playing off our opponents first. Still not time for the Council, so we could Attorney in Charge here. But I think this isn't the spot for that card anyway. So I think we're going to decide to take a weak turn here. Although we could set up, and if we get any sort of one drop, play the council at them next turn. It would be another Templar. So I think we'll play it out just to use our mana a little bit better. Obviously the Attorney and then nothing to follow it up with looks a little bit weak. Pass the turn. Got a Paper Herald. Rolls the 2, blocks us off, goes 1 for 1. And surprisingly enough, our opponent won't have to get rid of anything. That's alright. Chuck the Paper Herald back in hand. Ebenezer Scrooge. He might be good a turn or two from now. We could play out our Attorney, teamwork training, do nothing there. Because we do want to put something into mana. Still not the moment for the council. Although playing out 2 creatures this turn would set us up to use him next turn. So if we do this, get rid of the teamwork training, we'll play out the Legate to play around Sabotage. We are likely looking at giving up another 0 for 2 here. So our opponent will be separated by 2. Roll a die, return. They're likely not going to play anything. Well, if they... Yeah, I actually think we play out the Scrooge here, because if they want to play the Incaster, it means they only get to play one of their magical trainings. And I think it's early enough that impacting that might be reasonable. That's alright. Found another way to roll a die, bounce all their cards back, and now they have the option to take a 0 for 2 or draw 2 cards. They didn't want to advance, so they didn't get sabotaged. There you go. Played around it. Look at us go. We're bloody geniuses. I get to put something back. It'll be the Herald. Now we can look at what we want to do. Field Reinforcements isn't a bad shout here. 6 mana means we can play... Okay. 6 mana means we can actually play the cancel out. And I believe there's no pressure to play out the council now. Cloth Cocoon, like we mentioned earlier, might be a big deal, and we want to see if they'll play out mana. They've only shown us the enters from the Trickster. We'll shore up the companion side. So if they want to take an advance on the hero side, at least we'll get our sabotage. So they can go pretty nuts here, draw 2 cards with the 2 magical trainings we know they've got in hand, plus bouncing everything around. Drop an ink caster. And they're notably on 2 mana, which means no cloth cocoon for them. Could still twinkle twinkle something, but I don't think they want to do that. No longer able to play the trickster out, so they could play the paper herald and get another ink caster back, bouncing everything. Seems to be really important for their loop that they keep getting that guy back, but we are keeping up in cards. So they've seen more cards, 2 more, they've got 2 more in hand, plus what's in reserve. So they won't be able to buff up with the trickster. They're fine to just pass here. Notably, didn't play the herald. So I think we're just going to see what? Nothing else from our opponent. Didn't want to play the trickster out. Going to hit the ink caster here as a way to interrupt that loop that they've got going on. Kokoba could be good here, or to Spy as well. We'll have 7 mana to play with, and our teamwork training is going to be more expensive. I think it's time for the attorney to go. We're drawing enough cards with the council. We've actually got a little shot in the arm here with Kokoba as well, if we so choose. 7 mana means we can play a 3-drop and license withdrawal. Would have the option of keeping the council around if that were the case. And I don't think the trickster is the target for our sabotage, not knowing what else they have in hand. If we'd saved the field reinforcements for next turn, we might have been able to get both of them out. And we'll see if they want to take the opportunity to drop the trickster, knowing that the Scrooge could be just around the corner. Alrighty. Definitely not the time for the Order Spy, because we can hit the Mage Dancer if they don't play him out. We could take our medicine, hope to progress, although I feel like they're setting something up. makes me want to setting something up that makes me want to think they're contesting on this side. So 4 mana. If we teamwork training here, it wouldn't be enough to block them. But I think we're just going to give it up. So the council's really hard to play out of reserve. So what we'll do is make them commit to this side, draw additional cards and see where we go from there. I think if we can afford to, if we can actually keep it to just going 1 for 1, I think we'd be happy. However, that's not going to be the case. No board wipes in order to deal with these anchored creatures. And they just get enough to stay onto the field. That's skits, but they get to bounce the Mage Dancer back. Alright, well these are these 3 copies of Order Spires are looking pretty stupid right now. I believe we're going to get rid of one of those, and our opponent's going to be playing with some level of advantage. Alright, probably not the done thing. I think we'll scout the Templar out to start off with. Non-committal, uses 1 mana. We're alright with that. Kokoba costs 2 for some form of mana as well. 7 mana that we have. No enters from the Daedalus. Alright, our opponent's saying that they tried to scout. We're just going to bounce the Mage Dancer as a way to pressure here. See what they want to do. We could theoretically Kokoba. What's the most power we can get on the board? I think that's it. The next Bureaucrat you play costs 1 less. That does not help us. So our opponent's saying that they scouted for 1. Obviously, his hand cost wouldn't have mattered here. Yeah, that's it. Alright. They did get over the line, had a really good strong loop going there. We drew a lot of cards as well, actually more than they did, but that Parliament of Ashes and this little cycle they had going with the Mage Dancers was enough to get them over the line. I'm not too upset with that one. Deck still seems to go. I do like drawing cards. But we'll go on to game 2. What do they play at Nevenka? We'll keep that in mind next time we play them. We're back with game 2 for Hermes Conrad. Let's see if we hit this. We're playing second against Itsadi and Surge. So the Hunger's gonna destroy us here if we get to that point in the game, which we will because we're playing slow as well. Doppelganger looks like it might be good here if we can get anything with asymmetrical stats. And then I think we'll do it like this. Playing second, we might be able to sneak a little expedition in with the field reinforcements. Runes, Testament is our way to draw cards. Going to be low on sabotage this game. 2 of the Order Spies, but that's alright, they didn't do nothing for us in the previous game, so you know, no big loss. Was probably a spot that we're going to look at. Smouldering Gin. Alright, if this is our opponent's only play, the Doppelganger looks good. Let's just play something next turn as well, though we will be impacting the value of our field reinforcements. We'll draw a card first, Bountiful Meadow, and we're actually going to drop the field reinforcements token on the same side as the Djinn, so that if we both advance, which is what happens, we maintain parity and can actually play it next turn for both the card and the token, which we're happy with. If they want to play the Djinn again, ramp up, we might be able to get them. Alright, we've got some options here. Not going to be the turn for Legate plus Meadow, but if we play both the field reinforcements out, we're sort of recreating the Runes Testament in the aggregate here, but also managing to advance. So we'll see what they want to do. We'll drop the Recruit on the companion side again. Obviously not going to get any value out of the Djinn, sort of incentivizes them to play onto that side. And we can get him again. Alright, draw an additional card. Pretty happy with how that turn played out in the end. Getting a 2-for-1 puts us ahead, although they did ramp, which is scary. Not a big fan of that for us. So they're going to have 6 mana to our 5. Hypothermia. Ortis Overseer doesn't look great here, but expecting us to go down on this turn might not be too bad. We can sneak Hypothermia in as well, maybe on the next turn. So what does this look like? 5 mana, down to 3. We could play Legate Overseer or Legate Teamwork Training. Field Reinforcement's not going to get the value out of it, but it does represent a token on this turn. lot of good choices here. So Meadow Legate 2-drop is an option. Doesn't impact our reserve too poorly either. I think Teamwork Training is going to be the choice here. Alright, they'll ramp with the Swift Djinn. We'll take our chance to get the Meadow into play. Obviously going to get wiped away if they do play the Hunger in the end. Hypothermia is a pretty good answer to that guy though, because if they play him out we can just put it to sleep, nothing on our turn. Alright. 6-2-4. Don't want to sleep that to keep it around, although sleeping it and advancing might be good. We'll drop the Legate, able to get rid of that one. It'll help us ramp this turn. And then we'll go 1-for-1 with the token here on the hero side. So, still ahead. Restricting our opponent's cards. We ramp, they ramp. Remains to be seen if that benefits us or them. That would have been a pretty good target for the Doppelganger. And still looking poor for the Overseer. However, if we get to the point where we are behind on one side and we can actually manage to charge out those tokens, I think we'll be pretty happy. Still have high hopes for the Doppelganger and the Kokoba here. I want to keep the charge and the hypothermia, so it might have to be the Overseer. Although the Warden doesn't look too great. Alright. We're set up. If they want to contest the Legate, they do risk getting something else sabotaged. And I think we're best off dropping the Overseer now. Can always charge it, put something of theirs to sleep if they want. Swift Djinn, can't sleep that. Alright. Puts us in a little awkward position. So I think we'll drop the Kokoba here. If they want to, Sakurabu rares cost 7 mana, so they'll be able to push us back one. Halua. Okay, pretty happy with that one. Seems like a good enough target for our hypothermia here, if the server wants to work. We'll just sleep the Overseer again, so that we get a double advance. And then I think we'll save the charge. Still get to draw one card off of our unique, although 3 would have been better. We've got options here, so Doppelganger looks good. They're going to have the hunger costs 8, so 1, 2, 3 mana to play with. Sandman, Doppelganger, Templar, Templar. Does use up our mana if we scout both of these guys. Can't use the Bountiful Meadow here, but we can actually put the Doppelganger the Halua back to sleep. 3 mana, gets 10 power off of the board, plays around the Cowrie's intervention. Target a character facing me. So with the tough this turn, we can't actually target anything with the Doppelganger. So we'll scout the Templar here, see what they want to do with their 9 mana. And then see if we can lock this game out. Arcolano Milk. Okay, likely going to be that hunger that we were talking about. So I'm actually quite alright playing out the Templar here. We've got 1 more mana. They have to play the hunger out, but they could, in theory, drop it on the other side. Alright. That's fine. They'll discard everything. We'll have a bunch of options next turn. We actually get a recruit for next turn too. So, barring more hunger shenanigans, which we might be able to play around, they did use a lot of cards there. We'll have 9, 6, 8. I think we're getting rid of another unique here. So we can play our 3 drops. We'll drop the Attorney first though. So we've got Doppelganger and the Sandman. We'll scout the hero side with the Templar. I suppose if they've got Arcolano Milk Hunger in hand again, I guess they just have it. Guess that's the risk we play. It is looking like it at the moment. I have to say. Okay, this is fine, I think. So obviously what they had in hand wasn't Cowrie's intervention, because I would have played that before dropping the hunger. So what we'll do here is sleep that guy and hopefully take a double advance. There we go. We did it. We noted it early on that the hunger was going to try and wreck us. They played two of them, and we actually managed to play around it because we were planning forward. Go us! Look at me go. And it's time for game 3 with Waru and Mack. Still buzzing after that last one. Really proud of how we played. Turns out that Aegis Templar, it's a big deal. Alright, up against its Sardian Surge again. Slightly worse hand, I would argue. I'll have to get rid of one of each of these copies of the Warden and Charge, unfortunately. I think get rid of the Hypothermia as well. I want to have some creatures in play. They're likely to ramp turn 1. So we'll play out the Legate so that if they do end up dropping anything into reserve, we can clip it. Warden plus... Okay, do they have the Tiny Djinn as well? Warden plus Legate isn't fantastic. One happens at the end of the day, one happens at the start of the day, but the Warden plays really well with those Order Spires, which is why we've got a split of Legates and Spies. Oh look, there you go. We ended up drawing it. But unfortunately not set up to take advantage. We'll get to see what they want to do. Charge might be good here as a way to flip this script on how these expeditions are going, but Warden and Spy is also appealing. But I think we'll just try and contest here. I've got a Seringar. Get to drop the Overseer, the extra tokens. See what they want to do with their remaining 2 mana. If they wish to contest and we actually lose the companion side here, we do have a decision to make. If we charge, we can advance, but if we don't charge, we would actually get to clip their second Seringar and stop them from drawing more cards. Taking a very controlling aspect here. I think we actually want to just drop it here. Only running the 2 of those, had to put one in mana unfortunately. This actually blocks off Tiny Djinn on both sides if that's the last card that they have in hand. So I'll stop them from advancing there, take a 2 for nothing, and actually get some stats on the board for next turn too. Pretty happy with that. Oh, oh, it's tempting, isn't it? Alright, we have a valid target for the Auto Spy off the rip here. They have notably not ramped or drawn any cards with their hero's ability as well, so we're pretty happy with how this game is turning out so far. I think we just continue to pressure the number of options that they have. So we could theoretically overload one side with all of our stats here, try and advance, although if they do advance on the hero side, it actually makes our Overseer better for next turn. So what we're going to do, we clip the Serengar, and if they wish to advance, they could double us up here. Alright, we have to read this card. Center, good character reserve. If you do, create an Aerolith token. When my expedition moves forward, if you have 6 or more mana orbs, which they don't, create an Aerolith token. Alright, well, we'll take the opportunity, drop the Legate, and actually clip that from them as well. Didn't advance on the... Our opponent didn't advance on the hero side, so not a good time to play the Overseer. But we don't like the repeatable interaction with the Medusa, so we'll get rid of that one. End up with stats on board here. And we'll get rid of the second Overseer. Very unlikely that we're playing both of those at the moment. We'll drop the Bountiful Meadow. See what they want to do. Scholar's Vault. Can't clip that. We'll play the Attorney out. I've only got 1 mana, 1 card left in hand. And we can actually block them here as well, which we're going to do. Even get to use this Aerolith token that they so graciously provided us. Hypothermia to reserve, not great. Won't be able to use that to sleep a Hunger now, if they play it out. That's still a whiles away though. License Withdrawal and Sandman. Alright, not the place for the Bountiful Meadow. And we get to see what they want to do. Have to play around the Hypothermia. We could License Withdrawal their Scholar's Vault. Clipping that right now means that if they have a Hunger in hand, they won't be able to play it until next turn. And the rest of our hand is completely cheeks. So we're going to get rid of that one because we've got no other options. Parliament of Ashes might have been a good target there as well. A lot of our options to put things to sleep do target. Play out the Sandman, actually sleep our own Attorney here, giving a couple of boosts. Lets us draw an extra card this turn, puts power on the board next turn. But it does give them free reign. If they want to contest, they're going to have to use their mana. They could take a 1-for-1 here, which we wouldn't be upset with. But 4 mana means they're likely able to block us on this side anyway. Oh, and they just pass. Alright. Tap the Bountiful Meadow just as a way to assert dominance. I think we've confused our opponent a little bit with sleeping our own Attorney here. Alrighty. So we could counsel Sandman Teamwork Training something for 3 mana, including the Leviathan Spotter. We could Hypothermia Sandman Doppelganger. I do like... Ooh. This is a tough choice. We're going to get rid of the teamwork training here. I don't think I would actually blame somebody for playing that out. So they could spotter here, we Sandman, they play whatever they reveal. Let's see, what have you got for me, buddy? Theseus. Okay. They can scout that. So what we'll do is if they want to bounce something, they will be very allowed to do so. 6 mana means we can still play Council Doppelganger and actually draw our special cards. We might be able to just sneak under the radar here. I am always worried when playing this deck because it can run out of steam if you draw the wrong cards. Bounce the Theseus. We could get the Attorney and the Council out as well as a way to draw our cards. But with 2 mana remaining, I think we should just try and blank Duel of Grit here and see what they want to do. Now, I think we'd like to draw the extra cards off of the Council here. I was thinking about casting Hypothermia so that stops them from advancing. Teamwork Training would have done well with that one actually, although we wouldn't have drawn it if we hadn't played out the Attorney. what does our hand look like here? We've got 1, 2, 3, 3 different options for putting power on the board. No second copy of the council to blank enters, unfortunately. Definitely an option to think about. But I think we give up on the second meadow. The meadow means we would be able to play the attorney for free. And we are going to have to worry about the hunger here. And to that effect, I think we'll just play out Kokoba here. We don't actually get to draw off of it, but when he leaves, if they do use all of their mana on the hunger, then we draw an additional card. Sakurabru. Not too upset with that one, actually. So we can actually get away with dropping the hypothermia here. We can sleep the council as a way to draw extra cards, and they have to put theirs to sleep, so we win. There we go. Nailed it. Didn't even need all those extra cards. Played around it though. Alright, 2 of the same hero in a row. Not ideal, but at least we rolled them. Love that for us. Alright. See you in a bit. We've got a bonus video. Had this one during testing, didn't record it, but jumped in on the replay right after. Think I played really well. A couple of things that can be gleaned from it, so you're getting a little bit of extra content this week. I did end up winning this game, very proud of that fact, but you know, my channel, my rules. You can deal with the humble brag, and if you don't like it, you can sub. Alright, let's jump in. So obviously we're playing Waru and Mack. Our little plan of looking at our opponents and leaving notes of what they play came into effect here. As we were choosing the deck, obviously we're picking Waru and Mack, but we did look at our opponent's profile. We've played against them before. Had a little note that they were running Sol and Hulua during that, but so we were sort of expecting that to come through, and they've surprised us. We're playing first. We get to see we're up against Sierra and Oddball. Obviously, it's not a crime to pick a different deck, but we are going to leave that as a marker on our opponent for next time, and we've got our opening hand. Bevy of options. Couple that we're thinking about. Ortus Attorney and Hypothermia obviously uses all of our mana turn 1. She's going to be asleep anyway, so whatever they end up playing on their first move will end up getting slept. But we also have the Aegis Templar here as a way to scout for 1, put a creature on the field, and we're actually pretty interested in that considering the hero that our opponent is playing. They're highly likely to play a 3-drop permanent turn 1, which means they get their Brass Bug token, which means that if we do have 1 creature on the field with the Templar, we can actually hit them with the teamwork training. Down in tempo, but we do have a way to recoup cards on later turns with the Attorney. So as we go through, you'll see we send the 2 Order Spies and the Hypothermia away, play out the next move, and we do take that gambit. So if they play out anything else, we have to rethink, but they play the Abandoned Depot, get their token, and try to block us. At which point, we drop that teamwork training. So we're ahead. We like that. It gives us a little bit more breathing room to play. got something to do next turn. If we get another 1-drop, we can play the Templar. If we get a second 2-drop, we can play the Attorney as well. But being ahead here is favourable for us because we have to work a couple of turns ahead. It gives us a bit of breathing room. Alright, another teamwork training, 2 Water Attorneys, so we could potentially, with our 4 mana, play out the Attorney, put it to sleep, draw a card, and then teamwork training away another Brass Bug if they wish to play it, but we're actually going to send the teamwork training away and just try and overwhelm our opponent with the extra options that we can get. Good thing we didn't, because our opponent plays out the common bug out bag, notably doesn't trigger Sierra and Oddball, but it gives them 2 mana to play with next. So we're just going to take our medicine here and play out both of our Audis Attorneys. Our opponent plays an Axiom Signet, so they're going to take a 0 for 2, and we're just going to drop both the Attorneys on the same side. The reason being that as we've taken a 0 for 2 here and we're an expedition behind, we do want to try and catch up, so putting all of our power on one side, at least keeping us that one expedition behind, likely better than splitting our options next turn and losing if we end up dropping more Attorneys. Get our double draw, got a Field Reinforcements, which we like, and the Doppelganger. New addition to the deck, you'd have seen that played a few times already, hopefully, but this isn't really the matchup for it. So going to have 5 mana to play with. License Withdrawal is going to be huge because it is an efficient way to get rid of their Brass Bug Hives a little bit later into the game. So not quite ready for that, but we are going to keep it around and send the Doppelganger away. Really good into other matchups where buffing one singular creature is a big deal, but you know, small ball style of Axiom, likely not going to find a lot of power on the board. Everything's relatively even in their stats, so you're mostly using it to block. And we're going to play the Field Reinforcements for maximum value. We'll get our card, and we will try and pressure on both sides, so that if they are caught lacking at all, at least we will be able to play around that. 3 mana left, we've got the Bountiful Meadow, the License Withdrawal, the Aegis Templar, both in hand and reserve. Both of our Attorneys are going to be heading to reserve this turn, so anything that's left in there is likely going to have to be discarded, so we're incentivized here to play out the Aegis Templar on the other side. So we're ahead on both sides. They've got 3 mana, so they could get, with their permanent, another 2/2 bug out, enough to block us on one side, but if they do that, we draw 2 cards, and if they do it on the other side, we're not going to lose that expedition and take our own 2 for nothing here. However, our opponent plays Avalanche. Pretty big deal, so sending to reserve any number of characters with Mountain of 4 or less does hit both of our Attorneys, and we do flag that they've got that in their deck now. So obviously they're going to choose to wipe the side that lets them advance. No draws for us either. Pretty good answer, but we do have plays that can mitigate the value of that card later on in our charges. So gonna hope to draw those ones, miss out on a little bit of draw, but we do take a 1 for 1 and stay within reach here. Get our extra token, and at this point we're going to send the Field Reinforcements away. 2 mana, 1 power, draw a card, as opposed to the Attorneys as board presence. You know, less good in the long run, but gives us more options, but we do have plenty here as well. So off this morning we drew a second License Withdrawal and a copy of Field Reinforcements, and when we math out this turn, we can get 3 2-drops into play, so it could be field, meadow, and an attorney, but at this point, if we actually play the meadow, we're down 1 mana, so we could look at potentially a Templar, one of our attorneys in the meadow, but we're going to send that one to the bin and try and play out our 2-drops here. Playing second, we do get to see what our opponent wants to do, and what we mentioned a little bit ago did come to fruition. So they've played out the Brass Bug Hive. They're going to get their Brass Bug on each side, so representing a lot of power off of that, but they're tapped out, and we kept the cards in hand specifically for this. One of the better cards in the matchup, so we prioritize it, send it to the bin, and they can't get any additional value. That being said, paying the 3 mana for the license withdrawal actually does cut us off being able to play one of our cards, and giving up a 0 for 2 here is looking rather scary, but we have the card in hand that actually deals with that. So we drop out the Aegis Templar and turn it into a 1 for 1. So still staying within reach of our opponent. Going to need a big turn. I'm going to have to keep our options open. Towards the late game, we do want to keep cards in play that present mana on the turn that they're dropped. And I, at this point, may have forgotten that we've taken Rallying Calls out of the deck for this iteration. And we send a field reinforcements. Now, the reason for that is that it's poor on this turn, and we've already, by getting rid of the Templar, committed to a setup turn as well, so dropping the 2 attorneys obviously does nothing here, and I would argue that that was a mistake, potentially keeping the Templar, dropping the second attorney from hand, and then one more might have pressured our opponent, but what we're looking to do here is get the 2 attorneys out, maybe drop a charge and power them up for next turn as a way to block those avalanches from our opponent. Likely not playing any copies of Blizzard or anything like that, just as a way to diversify what their deck can do. But we've given up on power this turn, so we'll check and see what we want to do. Going to try and mitigate sabotage by playing out something from reserve this turn. If they want to hit the second attorney, we do have another one in hand. They decide to draw a card, play something out. They've got an enhanced prototype, first instance of a unique in the game, so definitely a big creature here, notably not boosted from hand, which means that our license withdrawal doesn't hit it. However, had they still had the Brass Bug Hub out, it would have been. I think in the long run it's better to have hit that hive, but would have changed the way this turn played out. So they've chucked a card into reserve, the Armored Jammer, so nothing lost from them there. And we just take this as our opportunity to set up. So we're going to click through, draw 3 cards. Playing second on the following turn here does open us up to one of those avalanches that our opponent's playing, and we're in a pretty rough spot. However, drawing 3 cards, 2 copies of charge. There's one of our new uniques as well. Got the Sandman and a second copy of charge. So we've got a bevy of options here, 7 cards in hand, feeling pretty good, but far enough behind that it's definitely not a guaranteed thing. As we've mentioned, the license withdrawal, definitely a big deal. We're going to want to keep these charges, at least one, as a way to buff our creatures from the avalanche. Hypothermia might be able to hit the enhanced prototype out if they play it first. Got the Quetzalcoatl and the Sandman. But the issue with the Quetz here is that obviously a big setup card. Don't draw your cards until it leaves the expedition, so no power on the board here. 4 mana invested, draw 2 cards at a later point in time. Definitely not the situation for it. Although the Ortus Attorney is looking a little bit rough too, because the side that we may want to defend here, if they decide to play out on the companion side, won't actually create her soldier tokens. So big choice here. From what we're looking at, it's either going to be our 4 mana unique or our 2 mana overseer to get rid of. And the decision we make is getting rid of that Quetz. So pretty big deal. We've got 2 ways to sleep a large creature out if they want to play the prototype out early. So we can sleep with the Sandman or drop a Hypothermia. Dropping the Overseer on the hero side here would likely guarantee that we get to move ahead, unless they're running Blizzards as well as those Avalanches. We've got an answer to the prototype if they don't want to use its reserve ability to spend one of the boosts at this turn. And then we've got 2 ways to keep some power off the board. So we get to see what our opponent wants to do first. They drop an Opera House, so we could hit that with the license withdrawal. Stops them from looking at more cards in their deck. But if they do end up playing a Brassbug Hive from hand, we would rather direct it at that. So what we do is we just drop a charge to preemptively protect against Avalanche. Don't want to get caught out by that twice in a game. We get to see what they want to do. They drop a Depot and get a Brassbug out. So they have threatened to, but not chosen to play their enhanced prototype. And we've got a lot of options here. We could play out the Overseer as a way to prepare for next turn. If they play out a second creature, they're going to have a choice of what to sleep with their Hypothermia. We can always target something with the Sandman and then just charge again if we want to progress here, but we want to save that one as it's only a 2-of in the deck. So we drop the Hypothermia, gives us the most options on this turn. Threaten on both sides by sleeping the double Attorney side. And they drop an Armored Jammer into play. Not too worried about that one. And with our remaining mana, we can play some combination of our 3-drop and 2-drop. So either Attorney Sandman, Charge Attorney, or Charge Sandman, or Withdrawal Charge. We know they're out of mana, so we're going to get free reign to do whatever we want here. And we drop the license withdrawal. A lot of options here, so we could stop them from drawing an extra card with the Depot. We could stop them from getting their Brassbugs, or stop them from getting their card advantage with the Opera House. And we end up choosing the Dropship. At this point in the game, an extra 4 power, and notably on 2 bodies, might have been enough to win the game for them on the next turn. But we'll use our remaining 2 mana to get another Overseer out as a way to prepare for next turn. Sadly, no recruits for us because we're even and now ahead. But just having the creature on the board is going to be a big deal. We want to maximize the use of our mana. Would have been wasted. We've, up until this point, been managing our reserve fairly well. Not giving them good places to use their Armored Jammers, and only gotten rid of 1 card ourselves in that Aegis Templar. And we have another decision to make. So we've got the Legate and Attorney, so they don't add power to the board right now where we want to, so we are going to have to get a little bit lucky with what they want to play here. But if we can manage to block them off in the next game, or on this day, we'll have some play anyway. But at this point, playing catch up, Rune's Testament looks pretty poor. So I'm going to send that one to reserve. Our opponent will send something too. And what we're hoping to see is at some point their copy of Enhanced Prototype coming out. So getting an additional boost on that one. Got a lot of options here. So 9 mana means 3/3/3 or 3/2/2/2. So we could, in theory, play Attorney, Charge, Legate, and Hypothermia if we want to sleep their Brass Bug. If they play out the Prototype, we could always give them the choice to sleep. But we're going to start slow, play out the Attorney. If we can manage to block, we'll do just that, draw the card for next turn, give ourselves another go, and they play the Jammer to get rid of our Hypothermia. I think reasonably our opponent was assuming we might have like a teamwork training or something in play, because if we get them down to one creature with the Hypothermia, put it to sleep, that would win us the game after investing so much mana. And thankfully, by playing around that, the 3 mana from the Hypothermia is opened up, we can actually play everything out in our hand. So we'll drop the Legate as a way to incentivize our opponent to board wipe on that side. Use the Opera House to reveal a Brass Bug Hive, so they'll have the 1 mana remaining. Likely not too much in hand that can affect us here, although I actually might have been more fearful of the Prototype untapping 2 mana, so they would have been on 7, paid 5 down to 2, back up to 4, played something else out. And because they're winning based on the board and where the expeditions are, if they do win on the one side, they may as well try and overload. But we have, luckily the 2 cards in hand that actually let us deal with it. So dropping the Sandman on these expeditions, only brown and blue, where it's strong, and putting one of their powered up bugs to sleep is a 6 power swing. And it actually evens it up for us. At this point, they would still win, but luckily we have the card in hand that lets us block them and advance. 2 creatures that aren't asleep on the board. If we'd somehow managed to just block them off, we would have been powered up next turn as well. And there's nothing they can do. So, really good game from us. They drew an extra card just in case we couldn't get over the line. I think our opponent might have been able to play the Prototype and threaten with one of their other 2 cards in hand, but they weren't to know that we had the exact 2 cards in hand left that we needed with just the right amount of mana. Pretty happy with that one. Not sure how far along the development process our opponent's deck is, but they have played a lot of this game before, and we end up winning. Go us. Alright, thanks for the time. A couple of takeaways from that game. I think with Waru and Mack, it's really important to know what it is that you're doing next turn as well, because you're playing a slightly more reactive and preparatory style with forcing your bureaucrats to go to sleep. You need to think about what the game's going to look like next turn, and make sure you know your matchups as well. I don't think we would have been unreasonable to get rid of the license withdrawals when we had 2 in hand, but they both came in very handy and got us over the line. So I'm really proud of that one. Alright, on to the debrief. See you there. And there you have it. Hermes, Conrad, Waru and Mack done with our 3 games. Lost a close game against Novenka at the start there, and then beat 2 versions of Atsati and Surge, so not the greatest variety of factions and heroes that we could have played, but you know, we had a plan going in with this deck. You know, sort of knew our matchups well enough when it came to Atsati and Surge at the very least, and made a good game of it in that first one as well. Deck functions, really like the uniques here. I think we've split the difference between our bureaucrats and our board presence pretty well here. Not a big fan of running all 3 Order Spires, so there's potentially some more options that we could look at in that that common slot if we get rid of them, but the Aegis Templar played really well. The Ortus Wardens didn't really get a chance to shine. I think the fact that you don't put power on the board, but also that you really only want to be playing these at particular times in the game is a little bit limiting. I think were we to look at other spots for that, we could look at Ortus Night Wardens, or you know, trying to fit those rallying calls at common back into the deck. I think it'd be cool if it, you know, came off, but the fact that you need a copy of a 3 of in hand plus this out on the field on a turn that your opponent's gone first is a bit rough to work around. 3 mana, you know, for the 2 stats, negative, you can cut it down with the Bountiful Meadows and, you know, the Kokoba there, but we don't really care about that. Just make it a bit of a rough thing to play through. If we were to change them, we could go through, try and find some other characters to play, and we'll do just that. So we've got 3 slots to play with. Blue caps might be an option. Bureaucrats that also rip through more of your deck. We could look at cutting down to the Doppelganger, or trying to play around some other things. Staff Clerk is an option. Sort of impacts that same field that the Wardens and the Spy do as well, by, you know, attacking the reserve in a different way, put some power out on the board that turn. So maybe what we could do is go up an additional Templar because we like that card, and then play 2 of the Staff Clerks in that spot as well. Not really looking to change too much of the deck, but were I to make changes and turn around to play this one again, that's probably what I'd do. Alright, by the time you've seen this, you'll have seen the bonus content that we had as well. So a little bit extra there for you. I hope you won't begrudge me the opportunity of shouting from the rooftops when I do play well for once. But if you go back through and you look at the opponents that we were playing, you know, quite seasoned players, I think. So, you know, pretty happy with how the deck functioned and how we played today. I don't think I made too many shortfalls based on the options that we were given, especially in that first game. You know, sometimes there's just nothing you can do. Didn't play around everything perfectly, but I'll go back and I'll look at those. You know, hopefully you will too. thanks for the time. Really enjoyed your company this week. I'll see you next time. Love your work.